Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here, welcome back to Umineko, episode 1, Legend of the Golden Witch. In the last video, we finished the story, or so we thought, and it seems that things didn't go so well for everyone, except for Beatrice, I guess. But we still have so many questions left. So, we're gonna go through this epilogue. Every single episode has this tea party, which is basically an epilogue, but it explains a little bit more about what to expect going forward. And this first one is really important because it really sets a tone for the rest of the games, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how this visual novel works. So, let's get started and enjoy this nice, lovely tea party. Purgatorio. Thank you for the chaos. Thank you for the chaos. That was excellently timed. Hey everyone, congrats on finishing Umineko no Naku Koro. Man, I still didn't have a clue what was going on when the story ended. So, just what happened? Was that basically the bad ending where time runs out before the culprit gets exposed? Definitely a bad ending. That's right. Beatrice's letter, which Maria-chan read on the first day, did tell us in advance to solve the riddle of the epitaph. We were all so busy trying to protect ourselves and look for the culprit that we didn't even take a shot at it. That's right. If we had actually tried to solve the riddle, maybe things would have ended differently. I wonder about that. Shannon-chan, you did a good job too. You don't have to be our waitress and serve tea. After all, this is a rap party. As a group of people who met a horrible fate, let's all get along and lick each other's wounds. Lick, lick, lick. Speaking of a horrible fate, Shannon beats the rest of us hands down, doesn't she? She was such a beautiful character, so I thought she'd definitely survive until the very end. But she was killed right at the beginning, and on top of that, what was it? Half of her face was smashed, right? That's the worst. That was my role, so, there was no way around it. Nia-san, it's nothing for you to worry about. Judging by the last epilogue, even Milady and the rest of them met an extremely tragic end. It seems so. I think I remember seeing this horrible picture, kinda like my entire body had been eaten apart and dismembered. Speaking of which, don't you think Kanen's last moments were the coolest? Even though he had the tables turn on him, it was a showdown with the culprit, right? It's a whole bunch better than our confusing last moments, right? Though in the end, I was unable to get a solid hit in. Still, I think Kanen-kun's death was a big hint. After all, because of that, the existence of the 19th person was made clear. That's right. At that time, everyone's location was obvious, so it was impossible for anyone other than some unknown 19th person to kill Kanen. I said it was Beatrice from the beginning, over and over. I don't want to believe it, but that does prove the culprit was a witch calling herself Beatrice. That's right. There were many strange things that happened that a human couldn't do. You're not sure if you should be happy or morbid about this? It's so weird, right? I kinda liked it. Only a witch could do things like murdering Aunt Ava in that closed room. A human couldn't do that. Not only is the existence of a 19th person clear, but it's also obvious that this person holds a power that humans can't even imagine. In that case, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling this person Beatrice. We probably met at the very end. Met with a golden witch. Like I kept saying, Beatrice exists. It all went bad because no one ever believed. Every one of her witch friends says that miracles won't occur if you don't believe. That's right. Beatrice-sama is generous to those who respect her. It seems to me that Maria-sama was never a target of Beatrice-sama's wrath up to the very end, despite the horrible crimes that occurred one after another. Well, Maria believed in Beatrice from the very beginning. But if that's the case, how do you explain why you and the rest were killed? You guys believed in Beatrice just as much, right? Beatrice-sama probably had her reasons. If the song of the epitaph represented Beatrice-sama's resurrection ceremony, many sacrifices were needed. He must simply have been designated to be one of those. Shannon-chan, you met a horrible end. At the very least, I wish your death could have been more peaceful and pretty. Well, it's not like it hurt. Anyway, Right now, I'm perfectly fine, so don't worry. After seeing him stroke Shannon's cheek, which had been crushed during the story, everyone laughed out loud, smiling. Well, it feels a bit weird saying this, but I was sure this story would fit into the standard mystery genre. I'm a bit surprised to find out it's a fantasy. After all, a Western mansion shut away from the outside world on an isolated island, with an inheritance problem on everyone's minds, it sounds just like a typical mystery novel to me. It's not fantasy. Beatrice exists. Yes, we understand. Beatrice-sama does exist. That's right. Beatrice-sama does exist. I hate to admit it, but I've got no choice, because it's obvious that a 19th person, a witch, was involved. Many things happen that'd be impossible for humans. During the story, we tried to deny that in all sorts of ways. But now, I can say it for sure. Each crime, every single one, would have been impossible for a human. They'd be impossible to carry out unless it was the witch Beatrice using all the power magic could provide. The culprit was a witch. That point's perfectly clear. Long live Beatrice. Haha. Everyone believed. I'm so glad. Gods and witches might seem terrifying to people who are frightened of them, but I think they must be affectionate to those who believe in and respect them. I think you're right. So this murder case game is finally over. Now's the time to pull our tails together and try hard to solve the riddle of the epitaph, just like Beatrice said, right? I agree. Beatrice will definitely be happy. Haha. Everyone ignored that letter during the story. Even though it was the thrust right in front of us, we almost completely ignored it. I kind of feel sorry for Beatrice-sama. I've got the epitaph written down right here. Let's all solve it. Let's all solve it. This story probably went wrong ever since that time. That may be so. Maybe we should have tried solving the epitaph's riddle from the beginning, like Beatrice said. Well, it's a little late now. Even so, let's try solving it now and see if the witch forgives us. Let's go. Let's try to solve the riddle of the epitaph. It was something like, "Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved hometown." Maria put up her notebook on the table and opened to the page where the epitaph was written. Everyone stared at it, getting really into it as they started guessing this and that about the riddle. Surrounded by the smell of black tea and freshly baked vanilla cookies, they spent the time comfortably and happily. Hold on a second, you guys. The battler spoke in a way that cut through the conversation. His expression looked a little unhappy. What could he not like about all this fun? I've been listening to you guys for a while, but why did you all stop thinking? Why are you all so sure the witch was behind all this? Don't you realize something like that can't exist? With just those words, the happy atmosphere surrounding the tea party evaporated in an instant. George and Jessica, and Shannon and Cannon, and Maria, all of them stared blankly, wondering what in the world Battler was talking about. Even the foolish, arrogant Battler realized that he hadn't chosen his words well. Because, isn't it clear that these crimes were impossible for a human? That's right, that's right. None of the cases would have been possible for a human. That's true. After all, wasn't it full of things that humans couldn't explain? I don't understand what you're saying, Battler-sama. I'm the one who doesn't have a clue what you guys are talking about. Isn't it obvious that humans committed these crimes? There's no way something like a witch exists, right? Then, what about when I was killed in the storehouse and something horrible was done to half my face? If the culprit was human, how could they have accomplished that? That's... well, it's hard to imagine how they did something that awful. But that was the Rose Garden storehouse, right? I'm sure there were plenty of weird tools in there. Let's say they used some electrical tools like a grinder or an electric saw. That's... Then, Battler, how do you explain Grandfather's disappearance from the study when it was a closed room? Even though the door was sealed, Grandfather just suddenly disappeared, right? We talked about that during the story, too. It's not impossible Grandfather used some trick to fool the receipt. It's also possible he went out the window, fell down, and Natsui locked the window from inside. I could think of a bunch of tricks you could use without relying on magic. That makes sense, but... In that case, Battler-kun, how do you explain the way my parents were killed in the guest room? The door was sealed by the lock and the chain. Naturally, the window was sealed too. How do you think a human could have killed my parents? Well, we did have to leave that trick alone during the story. Anyway, there's at least a good chance the culprit had a key. And it was possible to look in through the crack of the door that the chain allowed. I know there's a stretch, but it's possible some device was used through that crack. Like maybe they stuck something through it. Well, even though a door chain is incredibly simple, it's a big factor in setting up a closed room. Still, there's probably some closed room trick they could have used. If you bought some closed room mystery novels from the bookstore, you could probably find some trick that fit perfectly. Anyway, I can't think of one now, but I claim there's nothing humans can't do if they try hard enough. Isn't that argument horribly irrational? It's just ridiculous to claim that it's possible for a human to do something, even though you can't explain how. Why is that ridiculous? Why did all of you stop thinking? Even something that looks impossible has to be doable. Doesn't it always work like that? Adler, you're the one being ridiculous. If you think a human could have done it, try explaining how. You can't, can you? And you're okay with saying the culprit is a witch just because I can't explain it? With that argument, all the unsolved crimes of the world could be resolved by saying a witch is the culprit. Badler, you're sidestepping the issue, and you aren't explaining anything. We're saying a human couldn't have done it. Therefore, the culprit is something that isn't human. And that something is a witch. And yet you keep arbitrarily deciding witches are impossible, even though you can't explain anything. It's almost like humanity was during the Dark Ages. Like those fools who claimed the heavens spun around the earth. Like those who said the earth couldn't be spinning even though they couldn't explain why. That kind of argument kind of pisses me off. So this is basically what you're trying to say. If I can't explain how a human could do it, then I must accept the culprit as a witch? It's not like we're forcing you to go that far. We were just wondering on what basis you can say such nonsense. Nonsense? Hey, have I really been saying something that weird just now? Am I the one who's crazy? You guys are really starting to freak me out. Badler-sama, when I died in the boiler room, I was killed by a 19th person who shouldn't exist. Can you explain how a human could have done that? At that time, the locations of the 18 were well known. Even so, I was killed. We talked about that in the story as well, right? Kumasawa Ba-chan, for example. She said she followed right after you and headed down to the boiler room. We can't know for sure whether that was a lie or not. For all we know, she might have entered the boiler room with you and caught you by surprise. Or maybe when you stepped into the boiler room, you activated some kind of trap, one that might have been set to hit you with one of those ice picks. After all, the stink of grandfather's body was coming from the incinerator. Someone was bound to go down and check, so if the culprit just set up a trap beforehand, they could easily have stayed away from that place and used the time of Kanekut's death to create an alibi. Talk about a trap in the boiler room, but what kind of trap could that be? That's right. Following his death, everyone immediately ran over to the boiler room. We didn't find any kind of weird device, did we? That is correct. Badler-sama, what kind of trap could I have been killed with? Well, I don't know that. But anyway, they must have used some kind of clever trap, or maybe someone's lying. Or what about this? Kanekun, what if the whole thing was just you play acting? That's it, you were play acting. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi were also play acting. They made the closed room themselves and were only pretending to be dead. Badler, has your head been, feeling okay? Should I bring some cool drinks? Don't look at me with those pitying eyes. I'm not saying something that crazy, right? I'm just pointing out some possibilities you might find if you think of all of it as a trick. Look, isn't it a pretty classic trick in mystery novels to have one of the victims just playing dead? A classic trick. In other words, when Kanekun was killed, we knew for sure where the rest of us were, and let's assume that Kumasawa Ba-chan wasn't lying. But that's only counting the survivors. What if the culprit pretended to be dead and joined a group of real victims so we'd lose track of them, and then acted on their own later? Everything would be explained. Huh? So are you trying to say that Aunt Ava or one of the others was the culprit? But didn't Dr. Nanjo confirm all their deaths as a doctor? That's right. Dr. Nanjo checked all of the victims. Badler-sama, for your theory to work, wouldn't Dr. Nanjo have to be one of the culprits too? Yeah, that's right. Once you consider that Dr. Nanjo might have been one of the culprits and fake the proclamation of death, the whole story changes. See? That's also a classic trick in mystery novels, isn't it? But Dr. Nanjo was also killed, right? About that. That's right. Dr. Nanjo faked his death. After all, there wasn't anyone except Dr. Nanjo who could examine corpses properly, and everyone was really confused then anyway. We didn't have any spare time to check and see if he still had a pulse. With this theory, any one of the dead people could have been walking around. I think it would have been hard for the 6 of us who died in the beginning to do that. After all, the shutter was closed, and there was a padlock that could have been opened from the inside. That's right. Mom was holding onto that key. So was Mom one of the culprits too? Wait a sec. Maybe it was impossible for the first 6, but in the case of Anaki's parents, the door was only locked on the outside. So they could have opened it from the inside. That's right, after we left the room, maybe they jumped out the window and got to the boiler room first. Is that too much of a stretch? Or maybe Dr. Nanjo made a mistake when examining the corpses. Look, he said it himself, right? He said there's a very high probability of making a mistake when examining corpses. If you disguised it well enough or prepared a substitute body, you could fake your own death. Let's leave the method or trick they used for that later. And you see, it's not that hard to deny a 19th person existed, right? Much less a witch, right? At least that much is completely impossible. I don't know why you've been trying so stubbornly to say that one of us is the culprit. In other words, you want to suspect one of your relatives? That's not it. It's just, I can't easily accept that a 19th person existed. And even if one did, I think we should construct our argument from the point of view that the culprit was human. I'll only accept that it's a witch in desperation at the very end after everything else has been disproved. There's no way witches exist, right? Why has everyone been casually accepting the culprit was a witch? I think it's great how your family love makes you hate the thought that someone close to you is a murderer, but is it okay to let that fool you? Don't you want to find the detestable culprit who killed so many people? Aniki, don't you want to avenge your parents? Jessica, don't you want to avenge Kanon-kun? And Kanon-kun, don't you want to avenge Shannon-chan? Shannon-chan, you should at least want to know who was it that killed you. Why has everyone totally surrendered and decided the culprit was a witch? What's wrong with all of you? The foolish and short-tempered battler tried to force his ignorance onto the others and yelled at them. However, everyone just looked at him pitying, silently watching over him. At that time, the wise Maria laughed and pointed out Battler's mistake. I'm shocked. All I see is you repeating this nonsense, thinking you figured something out, Battler. So, what's next? How do humans do it? In practical terms, I mean. I imagine you'll say, I just can't think of anything now, or with some weird device, or using abstract words to run away and evade the topic. What I really want to know, Battler, is this. Why don't you believe in Beatrice? She exists, so why don't you believe? Because she doesn't exist. Witches don't exist. There's no way. It was almost like a spoiled child who didn't want to accept something. The pitying gazes quietly closed in around Battler, but they didn't reach his stubborn heart. You really think that you're acting... Oh, you realize you're acting just like a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum, right? Battler-sama, I understand your feelings, but... Beatrice does exist. Battler-kun, why don't you believe? Even though there's so much proof. I don't accept the argument that the witch must have been behind everything just because I can't explain it. Does this mean that if you don't know how a light bulb shines, then magic is the cause? That's wrong, isn't it? There's nothing that can't be explained without magic. All this about witches and magic is just an abdication of thought. You just surrendered and gave up because you don't understand what happened. Isn't that right? Well, unsurprisingly, it looks like you alone won't believe no matter what, Battler. If even a single person doesn't believe, the miracle won't occur. So if you don't rethink your ignorant theories, the miracle, the magic, won't be completed. Huh. Now I see. I finally figured it out. So in other words, you guys are trying to force me to say the witch exists, right? A lie that everyone accepts becomes the truth. Is that what this is all about? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I kept going on about this. What you're doing is all useless. I refuse. You guys are all pressing me, and that's why it's all useless. Yeah, it's a gaslight fest on Battler. Why? Sorry, but why don't you let me spin the chessboard around one last time? If you want to force me to accept that there's a witch, there's a really easy way. And it's not the indirect way of saying it must be a witch because humans couldn't have done it. All you have to do is show me a witch doing it with magic. Furthermore, what Maria said earlier is what really dig her grave. You said that even if one person doesn't believe, a miracle won't occur. But real miracles happen whether people believe in them or not. Even if I alone don't believe. So any miracles or magic or witches that only exist because I believe in them are downright lies. The uneasy mood following Battler's ignorant rant. was blown away by a very soft and light laugh. Whose laugh? Badler was surprised. He had never heard that voice before. When he looked at George and Jessica, at Shannon and Cannon and Maria, he noticed they had suddenly gone respectfully silent. Beatrice. How amusing. I haven't met such a charming human for quite some time. But who are you? Don't you even know the host of the tea party you were invited to? How amusing indeed. This is Beatrice-sama, the golden witch who has lived for 1,000 years. It is an honor to be graced by your presence, Beatrice-sama. Please forgive Badler-kun's ranting. This guy's just stubborn, and he still doesn't understand the situation he's in. What a treat this is. Most witches get tired of living after the first 1,000 years. How nice it is to meet a man with a backbone such as yourself every once in a while. It is quite an honor to be present when Beatrice shows herself, Badler. Huh. How astonishing. Are you really that desperate to make me believe that a witch, that a 19th person is the culprit? This is starting to get interesting, and it's all useless. You must be the illusion that Maria and the others call the witch Beatrice. And you'll only be allowed to exist if everyone believes it. You have that kind of half-existence, right? That's why you want to make me believe too. You can't exist because I alone don't believe in you. Isn't that right? Your powers of comprehension aren't bad for a mere commoner who knows nothing of magic. Yes, it seems you were born with a strong magic resisting power. You're a natural enemy of us witches. No matter how much we turn your world upside down, you never believe in us. Therefore, the magic won't succeed. I accept that attitude of yours. I've got no clue what you're saying. It's very kind of you to go all the trouble of showing yourself to us, but I don't believe you exist in the slightest. It's true that many strange things happened during those 2 days. Like Maria said earlier, even though I think all the tricks could be explained, I still can't lay out the practical details of each one. However, that doesn't mean I'll surrender. I'm different from the rest of them, got it? I'll never accept that it was the work of a witch just because I can't explain it. This keeps getting more amusing. Making you surrender will be worth my while. You're just the kind of man I'd like to force into praising my name. I'd love to try making a man like you kiss my toes. If you want to talk nonsense, talk all you want. I deny you exist. All the events can be explained with human tricks. There's no room for even a speck of magic or witches. Wonderful. What a perfect way to divert oneself from 1,000 years of boredom. Then, let me ask you. A short while ago, you said that using the crack in the door would be sufficient to kill Ava and Hideyoshi, right? Explain how they could have been killed using some human trick. Huh. Suddenly jumping right to the toughest part, are you? Does that mean this is the trick you're proudest of? Miss Real Culprit? With a shake of her golden pipe, gentle, multicolored smoke trailed out of the end. The smoke quickly obscured their surroundings, and they were suddenly in the hallway of the mansion. The door in front of them, slightly open but secured by the chain, was... That's right, it's the door to the room where Ava and Hideyoshi were killed. Nice trick. Very well. Show me what you would do through this small crack, Badler. They probably had some device to shoot those ice picks. If they use that, how would they reach Ava over on the bed where you can't see that far through the crack? And how would they reach Hideyoshi in the bathroom with the door shut? Thanks so much for coming by, Kuagos. Hope you have fun playing Pokemon. Rest well. Damn. There's a crack. There should be some way. If you can't think of one, allow me. Oh? How would a witch do it? Come on, let's see your little trick. Badler, you're being rude to Beatrice. How nice, how nice. What a charming man. That will make it even more fun to force him into submission. Huh. You really want to make me kiss your toes that much? Only if I surrender. But watch, I'll definitely expose this trick and I'll make you kiss my ass instead. What a delightful man. I'll remember that promise. Weak witches kiss the behinds of demons to gain power, because there's no more humiliating oath. Just being told that makes me want to force you into surrender. Paying no mind to Battler's worthless ranting, Beatrice once again shook the golden pipe. That's right, that golden pipe was her precious magic cane. Come, arise, my children. I am the guide of purgatory. Forgive the deadly sins and hold the 7 stakes. Guided by those magic words, which sounded like a command, 7 stakes gathered. They were the stakes of the 7 demons, symbolizing the deadly sins of sinful people. Beelzebub and Asmodeus, come, forgive the sins. Release the spirits of the sinners. What? The picks of Beelzebub and Asmodeus responded to Beatrice's call. The 2 stakes of the demons were sucked in through the crack of the door like billiard balls struck by a cue stick. Then several scattered noises refracted through the wall, making a sound like a woodpecker. And then at the end, a pleasant sound could be heard. It was a small, satisfying sound, like the one heard when someone is chopping firewood and the falling axe neatly and easily slices through the wood. It was the sound of the 2 picks burying themselves deep into Ava's and Hideyoshi's foreheads. Right down the middle. Want to see? They definitely heard the 2 sounds like a pair of foreheads being split open. Battler wasn't permitted to see it, since he was on the other side of the door, but those 2 had died again, and the second time they had lain not an inch apart from where they had lain the last time, with the exact same blood spray as before. You moron. That's insane. You think you just killed them like that? I can kill them. I can kill them just like this. Suddenly, they were no longer in the hall, but seated at the tea party they started from. Everyone but Battler was sitting meekly, but Cannon was moaning, fresh blood dangling from his mouth. What a rude thing to do at a tea party. Satan's stake was buried deep into Cannon's chest. Cannon-kun! Cannon-kun! Damn it! Battler was the only one getting agitated. George, Jessica, Shannon, everyone else was meekly hanging their heads like students being yelled at by their teacher. Cannon was captivated by trifling anger and tried to disturb my banquet. Being easily captivated by anger is your deadly sin. Cleanse yourself, repent, do it over. At Rice-sama. Oh, that's Beatrice-sama. At Rice-sama. Beatrice-sama, please forgive him. I think Cannon-kun has repented enough. Wonderful. I am generous to those who respect me. Don't screw with me. Do you think I'll accept your existence just because of this cheap act? Like hell you're a 1,000-year-old witch. Your tricks aren't 1,000 years old, they're just the sum of a century of classic tricks from the mystery genre. There's no such thing as magic, definitely not. All of the crimes can be explained with human tricks. You would explain my 1,000 years of the 100 years of humans. Good, good, that's why I like you. Foolish Battler. Cut it out, Battler-kun, you can't. Go against the witch? Shannon started moaning, holding her cheek. Maybe she had a toothache, but apparently it wasn't a toothache after all. A slight redness spread across the cheek Shannon was holding. It looked like the redness was causing Shannon unbearable pain. Her fingers were pressing against in her cheek and drops of sweat appeared all over her body. Shannon! Shannon! Hang in there! Hang in there! What's going on? Damn it, what the hell is that red stuff? It expanded rapidly, covering half of Shannon's face. Then the stupid dunce Battler finally realized. Please, Battler-kun, please believe in Beatrice. I beg you. Because you won't believe. Because you won't believe. The magic is dissolving. For the first time in his life, Battler heard that sound like a pomegranate splitting. The red spray even landed on Battler's face. Poor Shannon's face had been split in half, and her last horrible moments in the storehouse were repeated once again. Shannon! Shannon! Damn it! Damn it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Don't humiliate the dead! Don't humiliate the dead! This time, the redness spread across George's entire body. It was like the beautiful cloud drawn by milk when it's poured into black tea. It spread out and extended across his entire body. And as it did, it seemed to give George increasingly greater pain. Looking at this bizarre spectacle, Badler was petrified as he frantically thought with his pitifully clumsy imagination about the nature of the strange death George and the rest were experiencing. Eventually, that redness reached the nearby Jessica as well. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! What did Aniki do? What did Jessica do? Just stop it! Badler. Don't let the witch break your spirit. Deny her. Erase her. As long as at least one person denies her, she's an illusion that can't exist. Are you okay, Jessica? What? Aniki? George was no longer recognizable as a human. He looked like a pile of leftover meat after the good, delicious meat had been scraped off to be cooked. The only thing that even resembled a human was the shape of his lower jaw and rib cage. And it was clear that Jessica, who was covered with a steadily strengthening redness, was approaching the same fate. Badler, quickly believe in Beatrice. If you don't, everyone's magic will dissolve. Maria, it's all over your body too. I revive all the dead with my magic, but as long as you don't believe, that magic will hold no true power. But I'm sure that a man like yourself won't surrender to something like this, right? But, Badler, we didn't want to doubt our friends. We refused to face reality and gave in to the witch. But, Badler, you won't give in to the witch? Jessica! 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 Poor Jessica met the same end. Just like George, she ended up like a butcher's leftovers. George and Jessica were now so destroyed, melted, and mixed up it was impossible to tell them apart. Badler, don't cry. Beatrice will restore the dead over and over, so there's nothing to be sad about. So, even if we die, we're still just fine. The redness began eating into the whole of Maria's body. The foolish Badler watched and screamed. I won't forgive you. I'll never forgive you. A witch? Magic? I'll risk my body and soul to destroy you, or deny you. No matter what happens, I can't accept you. Now that you've gone so far as to piss me off, I'll never forgive you. I won't forgive. I won't forgive. I definitely won't forgive you. You'll regret making me, Ushirime Badly, your enemy. I'll deny you no matter what. No matter how baffling things get, it can all be explained by humans. I'll erase every cell of you from this world. Well said. Badler, was it? That's just a thing to divert me from my 1,000 years of boredom. Come, explain. Try explaining it all with human tricks, and learn how lowly humans are. Let's see if what humanity has built up in 100 years can oppose my 1,000 years. That's what will make forcing you to submit so pleasant. So tell me, you who call yourself Badler, what about Maria's letter? How the 6 were killed? The shutter, the receipt seal, the closed room with a chain, Cannon in the boiler room, Genji and the others in the lounge, Natsui's suicide, the riddle of the epitaph, the location of the hidden gold. Yes, Badler, why don't you show me the power of humans? So I think you're starting to understand where we're going with this, right? But we're not done yet. Addition of new elements, question mark, question mark, question mark has been added. You can find this new feature on the title screen. That's right, there's still one thing left for episode 1, which we're gonna do right now, because it's pretty short, this time. So, every chapter has a tea party, which is the epilogue. Once you finish the tea party, you unlock this, which is question mark, question mark, question mark. Now, depending on the game, or the episode, the length of both the tea party and the question mark is different. So this game, the tea party was probably just under an hour, maybe even like somewhere over half an hour. And then the question mark, question mark, question mark is pretty short too. In some of the episodes, the tea party and the question marks are really long. So it's not going to be consistent between them. But for the sake of the first episode, it is short. Let's watch this before we talk about what just happened there. What sort of black tea shall I prepare next? Allow me to display every refined tea that ever was and ever shall be. Dried plum black tea. The kind that goes for 200 yen a pack. For 1,000 years I have been fond of black tea, but I did not know of such a thing. I will never tire living in this world. Beto. You don't have to display such hostility. I am just a wandering witch. I didn't come with the intention of violating the rules of your territory. Hostility? I bear nothing of the sort. I am just terribly concerned with seeing to it that the legendary witch Lady Burncastel is well attended to. You misunderstand. I am powerless. Before a witch such as you, who possesses the dreadful power to kill an individual 100 times, I am completely powerless. That a powerful lady witch like you possesses a power that none can approach is what is truly terrifying. After all, that great witch, Lady Lambda Delta, was dethroned by you alone. I only won an endurance contest. She simply got tired. That is not what Lady Lambda Delta said, though. Too much humility can be unseemly, Lady Burncastel. That girl has a dreadful power. The power to kill an individual without fail. However, without fail doesn't exist in this world. No matter how many times you divide 1, you can never reach 0. That girl has the power to bring the odds of failure down to almost exactly 0, the power to give rise to almost perfect certainty. I hope I never have to fight such a terrifying witch again. However, you have the power to cause success without fail, as long as the odds are not 0. Though you say without fail doesn't exist in the world, you possess an infallible power yourself. How very terrifying. The power to kill an individual endlessly. I think you're the more terrifying one. You jest. From your point of view, mine is but a trifling power. This is most certainly what one would call empty praise. Call it flattery to make up for the cost of staying here. I am a fleeing traveler who crosses the fragments, continually running from boredom. I simply came around because I heard you started something interesting. Have no doubts, I would choose to leave as soon as you are no longer interesting. I, Beatrice, am deeply and humbly delighted to have the great Lady Burncastel as an observer. And so, your impressions? Lambda Delta is terrifying because of her cruelty, but she's a girl I can understand. You do seem to be capable of affection, but I can't understand you at all. That makes you much more terrifying than her. I am fickle by nature. Do forgive me. Besides, I believe you also enjoy entrusting your fate to the roll of fickle dice, right, Lady Burncastel? When I roll the dice, I have a roll I clearly want to get. Unlike you. You, on the other hand, never let the dice fall from your hand. So, whatever the roll might have been, you're never disappointed. Whatever roll the dice show you, you are satisfied without fail. In that sense, you far surpass me. You're one I really don't want to fight with. Inside of you, there's nothing but zero. That's why I can't win against you with my power. It's the worst compatibility. Perhaps Lambda Delta, on the other hand, has a good compatibility against you, since she would be able to kill your endless nature. Oh yes, witches truly are the best people to enjoy black tea with. One doesn't get bored. Then I'm relieved. Boredom is the only poison that can kill me. So don't kill me, okay? Lady Beatrice, endless witch. If such is your wish, I, Beatrice, shall show you an even better time. In that case, wouldn't it be best if I brought the next chessboard in right away? It seems the next tale would do more for you than another cup of black tea. Just wait for a moment. Something troublesome seems to have taken a liking to you. I'd really like to lend you my power, but just as you heard, that girl's power and mine have a very bad compatibility. Unfortunate as that may be, but you really are pitiful, so I'll help you out just a little bit. First of all, about that girl. She does have the name Beatrice, but that doesn't necessarily mean she is one individual woman. Gets what I mean? In other words, she's not some human. Her existence is a personification of the rules of this world. To beat her, you have to expose the rules of this world and unravel them. Perhaps this can be likened to learning the rules of chess by watching a game. First, take a good look at the chessboard. Then learn the movements and roles of the pieces. Then look for the conditions required to win at her game. When you've managed to reveal all those things, her heart will be exposed. After that, you can rip it apart or crush it as you please. I am being quite generous. In the past, when I had a human body, it took me 100 years to notice even this much. So, just to be very open about this, Kirostyle here looks very, 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 very much like a character from Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, which is the previous installment of this When They Cry series. In that game, she looks very much like a human girl, so she's not like a witch or anything. It's implied that the entirety of Higurashi was some kind of game that she had orchestrated here. That's what she's implying here. I don't think it's actually part of Higurashi. You don't see like witches and stuff the same way in Higurashi. I haven't actually read Higurashi, so I can't speak to it as the same. This is just what I know. She just happens to look very much like this character from Higurashi. Some people theorize that that character went through so much trauma and torture and pain that she internalized it and that gave birth to this witch here. That's one theory. The writer of the series, Ryukishi, has come out to say that, like, in a lot of his novels, because he writes multiple visual novels, in a lot of his novels, a lot of his characters look the same. And, part of it's also because he's not a great artist. Like, he's a good writer, and he's a good designer, but when it comes to drawing, I've shown you guys in the very first Umineko stream that his art is not his strong point, so a lot of his characters look the same. And you might think it's because maybe it's, like, same face syndrome, or like he doesn't have enough ideas, but he's gone on record to say that he pictures his characters kind of like actors. Kind of like how Harrison Ford can be both Han Solo and Indiana Jones. He imagines that his characters are played by actors, and that's why some of his characters across multiple series look similar. It's because they're the same actor, but they're not the same character. So that's his way of debunking the theory. There is a character from another novel he wrote that looks almost exactly like Badler, but with different clothes, and he uses the same logic to describe that, so I'll talk more about what's going on here after Kirostyle finishes talking to us. This is my meager farewell gift to you, the pitiful one captured by Bito. It's just like a spoon. A spoon can be used for more than just drinking soup. You can use it to dig through the prison you're locked in, or as a weapon to gouge the witch's eyes out. Of course, you can also use the spoon to continually sip the watery soup inside your eternal cell. Don't get the wrong idea. I have no intention of becoming your ally. I do feel empathy for you, but I won't help you. It's like I'm sitting in front of the television yelling at you on the other side even though my voice won't reach you. So, you understand that I am a witch, right? I intend to enjoy this endless tale that Bito is going to weave until I tire of it. That alone won't hold my interest. That's why I'll lend you my power. It's also I don't get tired of this. I am the cruelest witch in the world. Whoever the opponent may be, I'll make sure they surrender with certainty. Even if it's Beatrice, the endless witch, okay? You are my game piece. Give it your best shot. I'll give you advice sometimes out of her sight. Don't bore me, okay? Oh yeah, this is the translation credits. Again, this game used to have to, you used to have to read like a fan translation and get a copy of the Japanese game, but now there's an official translation on Steam, and I think the official translation actually uses people who did the fan translation. You remember you sat with your cousin to watch Higurashi and she ended up traumatized? Higurashi has a lot of brutal scenes. Umineko is also brutal, but I think it's more tasteful in Umineko, personally. But I haven't actually watched Higurashi. I think I like the aesthetic of Umineko more, like how they all wear like, you know, English kind of Victorian clothes and it's murder mystery. I really like it, so I never actually gave Higurashi a try. I might one day, but again, these are such long novels. So now we can move on. If I press start here, it goes on to episode 2. And actually no, this is episode 1, I think. I have to press exit and then go back to the main title screen and pick episode 2, but I'm not going to do that today. Ooh. Lots of reading, but it got interesting, didn't it? So allow me to explain a little bit if you didn't really catch that. You'll see it more when we start episode 2, but I guess I might as well spill the beans now. Basically, the murder mystery happened. Badler refuses to believe it's a witch. So in this, like, fantasy purgatory world, he's still denying, after his death, that it was caused by a witch. So the witch appears, Beatrice, and says, okay, fine, if you don't want to believe me, let's replay the mystery. So in each episode of Umineko, they replay the murder mystery, although things differ each time. And Badler's job is to try to figure out how these mysteries could be done by a human. Basically, his job is to try to deny Beatrice her existence. And her job is to try to convince Badler that witches exist by showing her that the murder mysteries happen and are impossible. So suddenly we're going to start seeing this meshing of worlds. There's going to be the real world, which is Rokunjima, the murder mystery, the island. And then there's this like magical fantasy world. They call it the meta world, where you'll see characters like Beatrice and Bern Castell and these magical beings. So they'll start introducing, even though the characters on Rokunjima are the same, the Ushirimiya family, it's going to be, they're still going to introduce new characters because there's going to be these magical characters that come in and add more to the plot. And I think the fascinating thing is each character kind of has their own special powers too, and they kind of relate it to reality in a way, and you'll see what I mean by that. It adds a lot of very interesting depth, and then basically our goal as the readers, because, you know, it's a game, but it's just a visual novel, right? There's no gameplay, there's no diverging story paths. We just read, right? And enjoy. Our job basically is to try to figure out the mystery alongside Badler. And like Bern Castell said, Beatrice is like a personification of the rules of the island. So think about it like we're trying to play a game where we're trying to figure out who the culprit is, but we don't know the rules of the game yet, right? Like it's like Badler said when you're playing chess, but you don't know if the rules have changed. We're trying to play this game by trying to figure out what's happening, what are the rules to the game, and how can we figure out the answer from there. It's very like multi-level, like big brain meta thinking, which is kind of interesting. And even by the end, you're still going to be confused. By the end of episode 8, you're going to be confused. And I kind of love it. And again, I really love how the characters show these different facets of them. You're going to hate a character, and then you're going to love them, and then you're going to feel sad for them, and then you're going to hate them again. That happens with every character. And the nice thing is that each time we reset the universe and watch the murder mystery play out, different characters get the focus on them. Different characters get the spotlight. Different characters will die at different times. So you get a bit of a more chance to see, because we didn't get to know much about like Kraus and Ava and Rudolph and Kyrie and Shannon and Goda because they all died so early. They'll get their chance in the spotlight too, because the whole mystery is going to rearrange itself. So yeah, it's really interesting. I like reading the first episode again like this, because again, it's been like 10 years since I read this. I really like it. Like, I forgot how long the opening is. It's kind of boring at the beginning. There's so much exposition. I think it's kind of necessary to lay the groundwork, so it's kind of like a necessary evil. But I wish it was a little bit less boring. But once we start going through, like, each of these episodes is going to have less and less exposition, and they're going to jump right into the murders earlier and earlier, but there's still exposition we're missing. Now, I do like the music in this game. Again, they market this game as a sound novel more than they market it as a visual novel because of the music. And again, as you've heard, the music is really good in this game. I think my only regret is that, like, the music is really good, but it kind of only plays during the intense moments where something intense is happening. When everyone's just sitting around and having fun and, like, talking to each other and drinking tea, the music's kind of boring, right? Like, at the very beginning of the game, the music was kind of boring. I wish they had more interesting music for the downtime in the game. I know, like, having the downtime music be so, like, subtle kind of helps contrast and uplift the exciting music, but I wish it would... I could imagine a lot of people getting this game or reading this game and getting bored within the first, like, 4 hours and then dropping it completely, which is a bit of a shame. So, I guess there's really nothing you could really do for that. I think that's all I really wanted to say. Oh yeah, the first game, or the first episode that we just played, one reason why I like it, again, it's kind of boring because of all the exposition, but one reason why I like it is because it's almost like a pure murder mystery. There's no fantasy magic elements. They talk about it, but we never actually see it. You'll see as we play the other episodes, as the two worlds collide, the reality and the metaverse, you'll start to see magic and reality overlap. And it's kind of neat, because our job as the viewer is to try to separate the two out, separate the reality from the magic, but I kind of like having the first episode just be a pure murder mystery. I remember the first time I read and watched it, I was kind of disappointed we didn't get the conclusion, but then I was like, oh, there's 7 more episodes of this. And then, of course, the anime ends after episode 4. Like, the anime is like 25 episodes, and they cover the 4 episodes of the visual novel. They end on a cliffhanger, because you're only halfway through the story, and they don't plan to make another one, or they didn't make enough money to do so. And also, the second half of the game is amazing. Episodes 5 to 8 are amazing, but so much nutty stuff happens, I don't know how they could animate it. Unless they had, like, a huge budget and someone, like, really planning it out, like a big company, like UFO Table or something like that. Because so much, like, big brain stuff happens, or stuff that could only be described in text and not in, like, animated form. So I think it'd be really hard. The manga, of course, figures out a way, but the manga still has the advantage of having written text, so they can still kind of get away with it. But again, if you're interested in Umineko and you don't really want to go through the whole visual novel, because it's extremely long. I mean, one, you could always pop into stream and listen to me read it every week. I plan to continue this until we're done. Or, I mean, people, again, fans of Umineko hate on the anime because it doesn't represent the series completely, but I think the anime is a good way to just get your feet wet. If you just want to see if you're interested, or if you just want to get a general overview of the plot, it kind of does an okay job. It misses out on a lot of details that you kind of need to understand the full picture, because they have to cut stuff out. And they also, like, it kind of tiptoes the line between gory and not gory, because they need to make it suitable for TV, so a lot of stuff gets blurred out or censored or, like, happens off screen. So, like, some parts are kind of bloody, but they're still kind of, like, tame compared to how they might be described in the novel, in the visual novel. It's really fascinating, honestly. It's really fascinating. And if you want a mid-ground between the anime and the visual novel, the manga is really good too, because it kind of reaches that middle ground between having the pictures of the characters doing things and the text. And it does, the manga covers all 8 episodes, so it covers everything. Anyways, that's a lot of talking. Oh yeah, I guess since we finished, I guess I'll have a quick look at the tips menu. So the tips menu gets updated as you play the game. It's just mostly written stuff, but it kind of keeps track of some of the clues, like the epitaph, the witch's letter. So each of these was the letters that she left behind. The game records, so who died when. A description of the gun that Natsuki was carrying around. And a description of the 7 stakes of purgatory, which are going to come into play. We have the characters, and the thing about the character screen is that you can click on a character, like let's pick Battler. So it gives you a description of Battler, and then when a character, actually no, let's pick Shannon, because that'll make more sense. So like, I'll pick Shannon, right? She's a character in the game, it tells you what she is. When you're reading in the novel, right, after Shannon dies, her portrait turns red, right? So you can execute her, and then the description changes. So it says her corpse was found inside the rose garden, seems the side of her head was smashed after her death. So the picture changes, her portrait turns red, and then you can resurrect her if you want to change it back. like that. Kind of morbid, right? Like, this battler, execute, and then bring him back. So it doesn't, the tip screen doesn't really give you any new information, it just compiles stuff that we already kind of knew. But we'll get to know these characters a lot better as we play through all the other episodes as well. So, that's it for Umineko, Episode 1, Legend of the Golden Witch. Next time we're going to start Episode 2. I probably won't be doing it this weekend, but I'll probably wait till next week. I think I can only really handle one Umineko stream a week, just because of how much talking I do, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Episode 1 alone was, as you can tell, quite lengthy, so each one is quite long, and I think they get longer as you get, especially past Episode 5, they get substantial, but these are good, and I want to share it with more people, because not a lot of people have heard of Umineko, but they don't actually know exactly what it's about, so I want to share it, even if it's just like the idea of it. Get more people talking, right? Anyways, thank you so much for joining me here on stream. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know any thoughts or comments, or thoughts in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. Of course, if you've already played this before or read this before, don't spoil anything for anyone, but if you have any theories or anything that you want to share, feel free to put them in, or maybe put them under like a spoiler tag or like a read more tag. I'm interested in seeing what people think as their reactions as we go, because things again do get kind of nutty, and it's a wild ride, but I really enjoy it. Let's see if anyone is streaming right now. Oh, look, Kite's streaming right now. He's like back from a hiatus, so let's hop in on him. Right. Good night, take care, stick around for raid, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.